I want to share two paintings with you. They are both of the same woman, I strongly believe. One was made in 1939 and the other in 1955. The first is soft, full of quiet strength. The second is older, more worn, but still tender and strong. I never met her, but I think she was Josef's mother, my great-grandmother, and I think she is where his gift came from. This is not a story of fame and success. It is about someone who held on to beauty through the hardest of times. Someone whose work still lives in the light and quiet of our homes. It is the story of my grandfather, the painter Josef Konečný. He wasn't born into art. Josef was born in 1909 in a small Moravian village called Žarošice, which was still part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He was the fourth of 7 siblings. He cared for domestic animals because the family wasn't wealthy, but he also loved to draw. I don't know exactly when he decided to become a painter, but the stories say he was encouraged early on at school. My aunt shared with me a memory passed down. A teacher once told a girl in his class to give Josef her paints. She refused and poured them out instead. After finishing basic school, he couldn't afford to continue his studies. So he apprenticed as a house painter and decorator in Bučovice, the closest thing he could choose to being a painter. He walked there every day, 16 kilometers, through the forest called Ždánský les. The local master liked him and even wanted him to marry one of his daughters. But Josef was already in love with my grandmother back in Žarošice. Then he moved for work to Brno, where he also started taking evening drawing classes. And there he met painter František Myslivec, who recognized his talent and encouraged him to continue and pursue art studies in Prague. Though he was earning a living as a decorator, deep in his heart he was dreaming of becoming a fine art painter. In 1932, Josef and his brother Karel, later a sculptor, moved to Prague. There's a family legend that they once rode bicycles all the way from Žarošice to Prague, 240 kilometers, just to chase this dream. There's another family story that Josef, a shy village young man, inquired about studies at the Academy of Fine Arts gate and was rudely turned away. No high school diploma? You can't study here, said the porter. So he did something bold. He painted a portrait of President Masaryk and sent it to the presidential office, along with a letter of complaint. He got a response. Talent, they wrote, must not be denied, no matter what education. In 1936, 3 years later, he passed the entrance exams and began studying at the Academy of Fine Arts in Prague. He studied under Professor Vratislav Nechleba, one of the most sought-after portraitists of the First Republic. Nechleba was a committed academic realist. He rejected modernist trends, insisting that painters had a moral responsibility to portray life especially the human face, with empathy, technical rigor, and a deep respect for light. He often said that a portrait should reveal what words cannot. Under Nechleba's guidance, Josef didn't just refine his brushwork, he found a lifelong artistic compass. He even joined a student group at the academy that mockingly referred to modernists as formalists. He didn't hate them. One of his best friends was a surrealist. But I believe that for him, painting wasn't about novelty, it was about the truth and beauty of life lived in the moment, and about the light hidden within every human being, everything, and scene. From 1939, Nazi Germany occupied Czechoslovakia. Universities were closed. Josef had to return home. He married his love, started a family, and worked in a bookbinding company in Hodonín. In 1940, he became a member of the Moravian Artists Union and began exhibiting in group shows. After the war ended in 1945, he completed his studies and began painting full-time. This could be the happy end of this story. It isn't. But just as he was finding his path, 1949 came, and with it the communist coup. For a painter like Josef, who worked alone and painted in a classical style, it was a setback that never lifted. Socialist realism, with its ideological demands and political messaging, was the new standard. He was now self-employed and increasingly frowned upon status. He was still a member of the Artist Union and kept participating in group shows. The 1950s were the hardest, though. He got support only in his native village and had one exhibition there. Otherwise, he was alone, struggling to find commissions. The regime celebrated others who adjusted better to the ideology. Some of his former classmates were on television. Josef quietly kept painting, frugally, independently, and always with conviction. The 60s were more friendly as the society was opening. He got more opportunities to exhibit his work in 4 solo exhibitions, though only at the local level. The number grew up to 15, 2 of them after his death. Local people liked him, and he rewarded them with his devotion to his home, southern Moravia, painting their children, folklore scenes and traditions, and local scenery. He was called the poet of his country and the painter of home. His work celebrated folk traditions, village rituals, and scenes of everyday life. He even received honorary citizenship from Žarošice for his artistic contribution. Some paintings became a kind of family chronicle. He didn't travel much, just around the country. Most of his life he spent at home, and family members became his forever models. His wife, children, us, grandchildren, his house and garden. That house and part of our old Hodonín, where I practically grew up, were demolished to make way for communist prefabs. but Josef's paintings preserved it all. Alongside his academic works, he also painted more freely. These works were lighter, brushwork looser, allowing the texture of colors to come out, color palettes more bold and vibrant. You can see it in his portraits, folk scenes, plein air, and still life as well. It was the second parallel stream of his work. Then there are his sketchbooks from before and during his studies, with lots of studies and sketches showing a precise, delicate hand and focused eye. A sketch of his native village Žarošice made it onto a wine label of the local winery. There are two portraits that I discovered recently, and I keep returning to them. One painted in 1939, the other in 1955. In both, we see a woman at different stages of life, but also a painter at different stages of history. The 1939 portrait shows a soft, luminous hand. The brushwork is refined, the palette subdued, the light caressing her face in that Rembrandt-like chiaroscuro Josef studied so carefully. The 1955 painting is different. The lines are firmer, the background heavier, the textures more direct, but the light remains. Even in the darkest era, Josef never abandoned it. From a curatorial perspective, these two paintings span not just time, but transformation. They show how Josef held onto his vision across political collapse, war, censorship, and personal hardship. And on a personal level, I believe both portraits are of his mother, confirmed by my aunt too. His mother, the one he returned to when life became hard, the one who painted people's homes when she was young. I think she gave him the gift, and maybe she would be proud that I am using it too. His brush stopped in 1989, the year when communism fell in Czechoslovakia also. He never lived to see it. But after his death, he had 2 more exhibitions. And there, for the first time, his art was displayed with freedom without any ideological restrictions. The quiet light he carried, it never went out. If you have someone or you've had someone in your family who was creative or was an example and their light was quiet but never disappeared and is in your heart, I would love to hear that story if you can share it in the comments. Because I think people like that deserve to be remembered, just like I remember my grandfather, the painter, Josef Konečný.